So one of the 12 principles of animation is exaggeration, which to me is the principle that resonates most deeply with the cartoon community and internet at large. For most of us, we only understand animation through the lens of the emotional or historical impact that it has on us as individuals. Most of us scrubs are not going to enter into animation school or break into the industry, so a lot of the conditions and aspects of production are completely lost on us. While we tend to learn about the medium through hashing out our opinions online with others, the appreciation for the medium as a whole or lack thereof can seem one-sided or simplistic for those more knowledgeable about the medium. At times, there can be nuanced discussion over the merits of digital animation pipelines, and other times it's a feels-a-real bloodbath of epic proportions over how sucky Canadian Flash tunes look in before CalArts. Generally, public opinion can be overblown, but after a lot of time has passed, we can come back to the table and reassess our opinions and come to a new understanding about what was once not understood. And seeing how it's been about 10 years, I figured it was a good time to bring this back to public attention.
The name is Cartoon Network, so you expect to see nothing but animation when you flip CN on your TV. But the times they are a-changing, so don't get left behind. 'Cause now we've got real people and we heard it blows your mind. And it's gonna rock, give cartoons and real people a shot. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? We're showing more than just cartoons. Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? We're showing more than just cartoons. Think about all the stuff we can do if we show you more than just cartoons. Boys for ghosts, and the silly hosts about Canadian too. Are you hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? Are you getting this through your head? 'Cause seeing it real is going to shine. Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? We're showing more than just cartoons. Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? Hearing what I said? We're showing more than just cartoons. That's right. Come on, show me more sights. I want live action. That's right. Are you hearing what I said? The other siders. Bobby says.
So, yeah, that was a thing. That was most definitely a thing. And as far as I remember, it was not an affront to God. From what I remember, the block mostly consisted of game shows, dramedies, and mediocre action series. Upon reflection, it is understandable if offense is taken at the idea of live action series being given a presence on the Cartoon Network, but I'm betting it had more to do with the notion of choosing these extra series over the medium that drives the platform in the first place. And it's impossible to defend CN Rail on many levels. It is not a challenging artistic reflection of our consumerist culture funneled through mediocre kid shows. It was a pandering, sloppy mess and an attempt to play catch-up to the other big two that were riding high on their own kid coms, while CN was busy kicking rocks with a George in the Jungle reboot. Even then, the visceral reaction to it over the years has been rather overblown. But, how did we get here? We're brought back to 2006, anytime during the mid-2000s. Either way, something that is deemed as the worst decade for animation of all time, which is generally attributed to the fact that many cartoons released here were, pretty experimental in art style, animation, technique, tone, storyline, and they generally have less cohesion than the cartoons of the previous decade. This period has always struck me more so as a transitional period, because many animation studios and creatives were adapting to the digital production pipeline and the newer technologies that sprung up and really expanded during this new decade. Outside of traditionally animated series switching over to digital ink and paint, series started to be animated in Flash and Toon Boom, while computer-generated animation began to pick up more steam. Television animation, whether 2D or 3D. As such, various studios and creatives began to rise to prominence, if you will, for the advancements that they represented. Some for better and some for worse. Now, in the US, the big three kids networks had all picked up on this shift in the industry and began to experiment with these technologies throughout the 2000s. And despite their varying success in their endeavors, each network had at least one moderate success under their belt utilizing these pipelines. The big three continued to work on original animated content, though one of them was notable for deviating in a rather specific direction. Cartoon Network, consistently known as the experimental underdog of the trio, had been flirting with expanding its presence in numerous ways. They tried to start a following amongst the preschooler set with the block Tickle You, but they only gained a following among irate soccer moms and killed off the block less than 18 months of activity under their belts. They tried to kickstart another anthology series through Sunday Pan, but it aired for less than a month before being retired, with less than half of its run completed. They tried to maintain the anime-esque action-adventure enthused audience Toonami had brought in on weekdays by replacing it with Maguzi, but it never proved as popular and went away without a whimper the year before Toonami signed off itself. And while the network continued to be received well amidst these minuscule failures at best, there was always one type of production that never sat well with its core audience: live action. While the first live action series for the network premiered somewhere around the mid-90s, the genre started to really take off and gain influence on the channel in the mid-2000s. We got a few live Ben 10 movies here and there, but those really flew under the radar compared to this next project. Under the era of Jim Samples, the live action animated movie Hybrid Reanimated and its sequel series Out of Jimmy's Head premiered to high ratings, but pretty negative reception. While these productions were rather short-lived, they proved the viability in place of live action on the Cartoon Network. While they were decidedly mixed media productions, the notion of a tried-and-true sitcom-styled franchise infiltrating the channel was grossly offensive to many. And with the advent of the 2007 Boston bomb scare, Samples stepped down and was replaced quickly by Stuart Snyder. And seizing upon the opportunity Samples had set, Snyder had fully leaned into live action as a viable medium for the network. Only problem was that it hit the network as a trend more so than just another type of production. Suddenly, a new crop of series emerged, from game shows to action serials to reality TV and even ghost hunting series. They also acquired a couple shows to pad things out, like this gem.
Show us the hole in the wall!
Even outside of the block's branding, other series would make their way to the network a few years later. Soon enough, it was total infiltration on the whole network on Wednesday nights. Yeah. This arbitrary assault on the creative freedom of this animation-centric network only struck once a week for about 2 hours on hump day. And even with reruns in order, occasionally on Saturday nights, this was merely a fraction of the time spent on your average Johnny Test marathon. You know, hey, as pervasive as the marketing campaign was, the amount of time that the actual content appeared was quite lacking, to say the least. CN Reel lasted approximately 11 months before being skewered by the cartoon cavalry riding into fortify home base. And not only did the new crop of cartoons dramatically increase viewership, but they helped kick off the silver age of Western TV animation. Series like Adventure Time and Regular Show inspired many to become active within the community and beyond, as many crew members of former and latter went on to their own works. So with all that being said, we're roughly brought back to the present. I think a combination of the lack of originals, the rise of acquisitions, and the tragic fall of Toonami helped to contribute to the raging firestorm that fans of the network created in the wake of CN Reel. And let's be honest, no matter how spicy, no amount of total drama reruns was going to distract anyone from Andrew WK's manic wailings trying to demonstrate the block's realness. But once cartoons started to dominate again, the network was pretty much burying the block without a trace. Didn't stop us reminding them though, right? In a way, I'd wager that seeing Real was a good experience for the network. It was not a good idea by any means, and in most cases it probably would have never succeeded. Be that as it may, it provided a hell of a motivator for CN to step up their game. Previously, the Pizza Man cited that Cartoon Network had a lot of likability in its inclination to test the waters and try something new. When they screw up, they'll be sure to try something else. Earlier on, this philosophy let them be more creative with who they catered to until they started to hone in on the younger demographic. And this experiment, if anything, only solidified their incentive to remain the best place for cartoons. And hey, may have tempered them a bit. At this point, they haven't done anything nearly as soul-sucking, pandering, and money-grubbing since.